Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Cashmore. I work for Leonardo in the electronics division. We are a defence contractor that's moving from somebody who's supplying bits that you bolt onto an airplane to a more integrated person. So this slide deck basically came out of the desire to look at our sort of tooling estate, see what we actually had. Generally found that we had a bit of a frustration, which kind of I'm articulating it for the first time, so it's all up to me. So starting with the why, one of the things that we've kind of the global trends that we're facing at the moment, or sort of local trends, we know things are getting more complicated. There's an expectation that things are moving more fast, more quickly. And we also have this issue with particularly problem definition, is we've got a shortage of engineers, so we don't really want to be working on the wrong problem. And we've also got this problem, and Graham touched upon this already, is that engineers just love solutions. You know, we are always, we just leap to it, and then, to be honest, my technique is you just think of the solution, then work back from the problem and see if it's still survives the process. So, you know, these are sort of the big themes that we have, and so this is why we think problem definition is one of our. It's not new. Some inspirational quotes there if you come up against. It's been a known problem for a while that you need to think about problem definition. So we sort of see the challenge really is how do you build the problem definition area into this model-based engineering approach? With knowledge management, knowledge of the problem space, you've got to continually test it, continually probe and poke at it to make sure it's okay. And it's kind of it's quite awful work as well. You've got no real sort of environment to support you. There is, you might have something here, something there. Everything is very sort of mandrolically driven. So we're kind of, how do we build all this stuff together? How do we get all these little fragments of information, knowledge artifacts that sort of build them together and integrate the two together? So I kind of flesh out our thinking now in a bit more detail. I've kind of got to introduce some terms to you because not everybody will be familiar with them. I won't read from there. I'm dyslexic, so I've kind of put in my own nest there a little bit with all those definitions. But there's generally 4 types of tooling that we talk about, or the activities. There is this sort of mission analysis stage, which you traditionally associate with enterprise architecture. But there's other stuff. There's the sort of problem structuring techniques, the meetings you have, the workshops that you do. There's the stock flow type modelling, system dynamics, which kind of sits off in its own little enclave that does something. And finally, there is this wargaming technique. This is particularly applicable in our area where we have to balance the probability of killing something, to be perfectly honest, against the probability of being killed. You know, so you have to live on this sort of these 2 axes that you continually strike a balance. And this is what the area that we have to play with, and we just don't really think that we're currently supported with that. So this little cluster here, we feel in the sort of I use the slide later on to describe the delivery space, but we kind of you do have tools that can connect to everything up together. We do feel that there is a reasonable space here, and there is a thread from those tools into enterprise architecture that works quite well. What we don't think is supported is this problem structuring techniques, the source elements, as it were, that you use to justify various things that prove to people why you came up with this idea in the first place. And there's these wargaming models, these sort of simulations that are agent-based type models that are sort of saying, right, okay, let's assume that we've got these magical capabilities. Let's see how they play out in various different operational scenarios. Stock flow models as well. That's kind of the more logistic end of the matter. So we've got a reasonable set of processes. I think the systems engineering kind of, it's got these set of technical processes now that are in a reasonable state. By the way, I've borrowed heavily from lots of pictures from we state of the art, I think, as the previous slide showed, that you can see how these technologies are going. We're not too worried about that for the sort of immediate future, but more in the sort of strategic time goes, it's this market modelling. We've got the soft models. So a bit more pictures there and that sort of thing. So problem structuring techniques, focus on those particularly. You've got a whole raft of things. You've got the rich picturing type of ideas, and you've got the sort of business canvas where people will spitball ideas, but you need to capture that in a way that can then be used in the stream. And there's mind mapping. There's more the sort of sense making where you go out, you're getting survey details, that sort of the techniques that are sort of low observability, things that you're picking up trends that are going on in populations. Wargaming, we need that to sort of make sure that we've identified really what is a suitable and efficient level of sort of, connections, how we can work in a particular environment. Stock flow is logistics is a major part of military thinking. We've seen what's happened in Russia, in Ukraine. And if you don't get your logistics right, it's kind of the fastest route to defeat, really. What we'd also like to do is be able to, in that sort of very user sense, capture the data to justify utility curves and catching the ability to sort of say, okay, if we have a solution about here, if we can capture that information, embed that into our user requirements, then we could then sort of, we would have a defensive evidence base to say this is why we've made this decision. It seems a bit sort of like things with the So I've touched upon this already. State of the art. The adoption of issues are political. I think it's a social problem of getting this new way of working embedded in the world. The technology, I think, is there. I mean, there's always room for improvement, of course, but it's getting people used to this idea that we can actually do this, and it will. We think will get easier with time. It's kind of like, do you have like a single platform, or do you go to a middleware approach like suggested? We feel, yeah, I'm going on some limit here. We feel that the traditional areas are okay for systems engineering, but we still don't think that mission analysis really stakeholder capturing the needs aspect of it is really done particularly well. They're not served by the current sort of tooling systems. So what would we like to do? I'm going to sort of side. No, I won't realise the camera's there. We think the current tooling works very well in this sort of delivery space, in this ability. Once you define a problem, what you're not so well supported on is the ability to hypothesize and sort of try various different things and have a broad sort of scale in which you can evaluate other alternatives, because it might throw up some unexpected sort of result. We feel that the vendors are kind of fine. They'll come to us and sort of say, we can validate this, and in a way they're right, but it's assumed you've done all that filter work and you've come up with a good idea in the first place, and we don't feel there's anything really that can to capture those ideas. So I kind of have this in this vision, as it were, probably wrong, but you have an environment that enables you to do the problem definition, but then you would have some artifacts that you can then import into the tool ecosystem that enables you to do your engineering rather than scientific discovery. So, I mean, I don't want to repeat stuff that's already been said. I think the Perpetual Labs did a good job there of sort of identifying some of the common issues that you will need to do within this environment. But we want to be able to have these sorts of techniques available to us. And this is kind of the source elements, is this area that I kind of latch on to. That comes from John Holt's ACRE approach, where you specify requirements and use cases hanging off of source elements. And it's about how do you generate those source elements, how do you document them? You kind of trawl your various different server solutions out there and identify little bits and bobs. And it seems to me that there's got to be a better way of doing that. So I know some of the other things here that I think we should be able to do. I mean, these are ideas. These are things that I'm more sort of spitballing about. So MBSE tools at the moment seem to have enough capability that we could do stock flow modeling, for example. Could we have a profile in that area? So I'm just going to summarise those slides. It's kind of I wanted to introduce to the community some of our concerns that we're having. And I've kind of like talked roughly about these different techniques. I can talk a bit more length as required. But for the impact for us is that the energy cost of getting something from the problem domain into that solution is actually quite high. I think it's an area that's going to get worse and worse with systems, the sheer complexity involved. And so we are sort of at the point where we want to be able to really quickly turn around customer queries but have things at the ready for our engineering team. So why are we at this particular symposium? We're looking for two things really. We're looking for people to knowledge transfer partnerships, because we have the same issue as everything else. So we're looking for forming some sort of knowledge transfer partnership where we can embed the wherewithal in our own organisation. Obviously, very heavily dependent on software engineering skills, and also, we're looking for other industrial partners to work on. So, done quite well for time, actually. I'm very rattled through these, conscious of how long I've got. So,
Thank you very much.